All right, welcome, Dmitry. Would love to, if you would take a few minutes to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. So I graduated with a PhD in machine learning from UC Irvine, and I became a scientist at NEC Research in New Jersey, where I worked on personalization systems, published quite a few articles. Then I moved to Yahoo, and I was working for Yahoo Shopping.
Mhm.
Uh, and this is how I guess my career took off. And from Yahoo, I went on to Yandex, which is a Russian search engine company, was working on relevance. Then I was doing relevance and research for ads at the company called Criteo, a French company that I think is just awesome from the viewpoint of the mentality, right? Of everything should be experimented with, right? Like we were A/B testing a whole lot of ideas, and there was this no fear mentality, which I think is just absolutely awesome. And most recently, I was leading a big team at Walmart Labs, doing personalization and advertising. So I was the head of technology for both of these directions. So this is me.
That is a awesome trajectory, and the thought process that take the large Fortune 100. They are deploying lots of data science teams that are working on various models of various types. I'm
Right.
curious to know, how do you experiment, A/B test, do rapid testing with those models in production? What is the infrastructure that these companies are putting in place to test models in combination with each other, with historical data, current data, streaming data, so on and so forth?
Right.
There needs to be a platform in place at scale to be able to do that. So, what's the thought process there?
Yeah, so I think, Dipjani, you're absolutely right. So the platform is extremely important. And what is also, I think, important is that you actually have enough data coming through your front end to actually be able to split the traffic, right, like and test. And unfortunately, right, like in a lot of cases, this is one of the major obstacles, right? Because I think a lot of companies had caught up to the idea that, yes, we need to A/B test, right? Like and put infrastructure in place, and you will see it in a lot of big players. Now the issue is that you take, for instance, I don't know, a homepage of a large, trafficked e-commerce website. You may actually have enough traffic to actually figure out like whether to show like the results of model X's prediction or model Y's prediction. Personalization, I think, is a great example. But then you take an item page, or like probably even better to take an obscure item page.
Mhm.
There may not be enough traffic there, right? And so you would inevitably run into issues where you either need to wait a long time, right, to actually get to any kind of statistical significance, or you really need to be looking at a major improvement, right? Like that would actually show off with much less data. So I think there is still, even in personalization, right? Like in applications that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, there is a thought process where people would just look at it and say like, yes, go ahead and deploy it. And I will tell you that some of these ideas actually make a lot of sense. One example I'll give you very simply. When people shop, right, lots of times what they want is they want to have some of their options defaulted to. Like, for example, I want to search just like 1P data, and I want to, let's say, Prime delivery if it were Amazon, and I want to default to a certain payment method, and I always want to apply my rewards points. And so if the retailer is forcing you every time, like time and time again, to kind of make those choices, I think the level of satisfaction for you as a customer goes down immediately, right? Versus if all of that is sort of pre-built for you,
Mhm.
and this is clearly something minute, right? It's not like a big deal, but kind of the total experience is the integral, right? Like of all of those small things. And if more of them are actually set in right places,
Yeah.
then you are actually in the game. And actually, Debjani, this is also an interesting kind of question. I think that we may want to mention here, right, is about where kind of the whole deal with personalization is going kind of in the future. And I think where it's kind of interesting because I think there are two trends, right? One of them is that companies are becoming progressively aware that having first-party data and having that data at scale is an extreme advantage, right? And that they're sitting on a gold mine where they can leverage that data to actually be significantly more relevant for their customers in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And I think the kind of the counter trend to this, right, is that the customers are becoming progressively more aware that, you know, they could enjoy privacy, right, like, and not share their data, and like, don't sell, don't track, just don't, right? And so I think where this trend is going to end up being is that those companies, right, who actually have first-party data and who are able to leverage the data to be relevant for the customers, those are the ones who are going to win the prize ultimately. And so I think this is where we will see kind of the progression of it, right? That the education of customers will take place, and that they will only be willing and able to shop at the sites where volunteering their data to that site actually yields them the benefit, right, of speed, of convenience, of saving money and living better, as like we used to say at Walmart. Yes. And I think this kind of motto, right, is so very true across the board. Yes. Unless me as a customer, right, like I feel the benefit, yes, why would I volunteer my data? And I think more and more customers are going to be progressively more aware of that.
That's an interesting one. Yeah. I have a question for you. So we are obviously thinking a lot about personalization, and you've spent years on personalization at, you know, sort of the leading companies. Personalization has been a long journey, but what's next?
Again, Debjani, it's an awesome question. And maybe an interesting example I'll give you is like I was listening to somebody who I really got fascinated recently by. His name is Chris Voss. He used to be a lead FBI negotiator for hostage situations in the US. Okay. And you can go on YouTube, right? He's also teaching a masterclass. I think it's just excellent to hear from him. And so what he's referring to, either in his talks or in his book, which I also found like extremely fascinating, right? Kind of the art of negotiation, is the fact that in every situation, there is a number of what he's calling black swans. And if you know, like at least one or maybe two of them, it actually helps you clarify the situation to a level where you actually can drive it to a point where, you know, it is very easily resolvable, or like much easier resolvable than if you don't know this information. And so this is the analogy that I'd like to use for personalization. I think if we were able to read people's minds in a good way, right, to help them, we'd be indispensable, right? Like they would love us for that. And take the following analogy, right? Let's imagine that you want to collect a grocery basket, right, with some you know, products that you need to buy. You can go into a store and like browse aisle to aisle. I don't know how long a time, Debjani, it takes you. It takes me quite a bit, right? I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes. So even if I know the layout, and then you also know, right, like that they change kind of the positioning of the products. Now, given all of that, where is my convenience? My convenience is that I don't want to spend 30 or 45 minutes doing this, right? Like I'd rather somebody kind of does it for me, and my shopping is extremely, at least like as far as groceries are concerned, is extremely predictable, right? So I would claim that, you know, you take my Costco shopping and, you know, with like little kind of tidbits here and there, you can pretty much predict my basket. I don't need to go and pick it up. I don't need to actually build it online. You can pre-build it. And so the pipe dream there that could be is that I log into a website once a week, right? And I actually have my grocery list pretty much set up for me. And all I need to do is say approve. Well, maybe like toss out a yogurt and add pickles, and I'm done. Is it too much to ask for, Debjani? I don't know. It would seem like that if you are a customer who had volunteered a lot of data to this website, and you know kind of the repetitive behavior, and you can also kind of build a model of it based on not just this guy, but everybody who you saw, then you should be able to do much better over time, and quite possibly limit the time of basket checkout for grocery, right? Like, and reorder, if not to zero, but to a significantly lower time than 45 minutes. Debjani, the question that should be asked, is it true today? The answer is it's not true today, right? And I don't think it's true pretty much anywhere. So if you were to check out a basket online, even if you had done this multiple times before, it probably will take you, I don't know, more or less the same time as it would take you to actually go into a store. I mean, obviously there is an advantage of, delivery and whatnot, but I still want the ultimate convenience, trying to predict the basket in this case, right? And almost kind of read your mind, because this will, Debjani, definitely create a wow effect, right? So ultimately, right, it's all a question of relevance, right? And relevance in this case means that I can read your mind and predict the basket, and you're able to enjoy a lot of convenience by checking out very fast. Do people understand that that actually requires a lot of data? Well, that's the rub, right? And so I think it's something that can go up in trend very quickly, right? If the company gets data rich. It also can go down very quickly if, like, we cannot produce that convenience, and the product in terms of personalization, right, like in basket building, is not very convenient, then I don't think anybody would want to shop there, because it's more convenient to actually go into it. So I think, it's something that the companies need to pay a whole lot of attention to, because that, I think, the personalization there is a cornerstone that may easily define success and failure, depending on how well it is deployed.
But let me ask you this, Dmitry, that what you describe is obviously a need, recognized need. And the bigger players do have that data. Why hasn't it been done? I don't see technologically there being too much of a barrier. What is sort of stopping the big players from doing this?
No, so there is nothing stopping Debjani. I think what I think is happening kind of in a lot of cases, right, is that you will see a power law distribution kind of within the customers, right? But that power law ultimately means that there is a lot of customers with very few, like very little data, right? And if there is very little data, there is very little I can do to you, right? Like to help you, right? Like in your customer journey. And so what I would imagine, Debjani, still, right, is that there is definitely space in personalization to tackle big problems. There are like other problems in this kind of upper funnel kind of realm, where there are lots of customers with very little data. I need to drive them down the funnel, even from a perspective of data collection, because if I have more data against a particular customer, obviously I can do a better job for them, personalizing their experience, right, and showing relevant content, and actually them becoming more engaged with me than otherwise. And so I think these are the problems, kind of the big problems that are still there that need to be tackled. But I would also say that there is time and space, and probably there should be more time and space allocated to the problems that are really simple and transparent, that will drive customer satisfaction so much higher And you and I, we were talking about this problem, I think, the other day when we spoke about the customers collecting the baskets, right, and being shy few dollars off of
Yes.
the
Yes.
free shipping limit, right? And this is kind of a big issue, right? Because this is the time where you will see the customers are just getting stuck, right? It's like I had put my two items that I really want into a basket, and I need to pay $5.99 for shipping, and I'm only $2 away. Like, what do I do, right? And so, if the website isn't kind of reading into that situation and understanding that it's like a really simple thing, you need to show, I don't know, like a pack of gum,
Gum, yes.
and right, and hopefully, right, like that pack of gum is actually personalized, right? So it doesn't have to be gum; it could be candy, right, like, or whatever.
Yeah.
There's probably also a consideration that it shouldn't ship from a different DC, because like then you're gonna kind of create a split
Okay.
shipment, right? Like, and that's not gonna be viable for business, right? At the end of the day. So there are certain constraints, but subject to these constraints, if you realize that this is a problem, you can so much significantly improve the customer satisfaction and flow,
Yes.
like probably improving the checkouts and GMV
Yes.
uh, by a large percentage, right? And so I would say that these are, in a way, Debjani, those black swans that we were talking about, right? Which is, do you realize that this is the issue? Because if you realize that something is an issue, right, like
Yeah.
it's like oftentimes fixing it is easy.
Yeah. So I think what you are getting at, which I personally love, is that it is about really getting in the consumer's mindset contextually in that moment and
That's
being
correct.
able to add value to that journey in that moment.
Yes.
So something that Zainwan and all of us are sort of thinking about it in the thought process of understanding the consumer from a genome perspective at an individual level and
Yeah.
really predicting outcomes. So thanks for taking the time, and we will talk soon.
Sounds good, Debjani. Thank you.